I know you're sitting there, wondering if dropping a serious amount of money on a massive gaming monitor is really going to change your experience, or if it'll just end up as an expensive paperweight. You've probably heard the hype: 52-inch, 5K 2K, 240Hz, 1ms, and you're right to be skeptical, because those numbers sound great on paper but can feel very different once you actually plug the thing in. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, so you can see the exact model numbers and pricing before you decide. First off, let's talk about the size. A 52-inch curved panel is not something you find in a typical bedroom or cramped apartment. The 1000R curvature is meant to wrap the display around your field of vision, which can be a huge advantage in immersive titles like flight simulators, open-world RPGs, or racing games where peripheral vision matters. If you have a dedicated gaming room, a sturdy desk that can handle the weight, and you sit back at least 3,035 inches away, the canvas really feels like stepping into the game. On the flip side, if your desk is short or you're used to a more traditional 27-inch setup, you'll likely find yourself constantly moving your head or even hitting the edge of the screen with your elbows. That's a hidden trade-off you won't see in the spec sheet. Now, about the resolution. 5K 2K 51202160 is essentially 4 times the pixel count of a 1080p display. For gamers who also use their monitor as a workstation, the extra real estate means you can have a spreadsheet open on one side and a game on the other without constantly alt-tabbing. In practice, though, you need a graphics card that can actually push high frame rates at that resolution. If you're still on a mid-range RTX 3060 or a comparable AMD card, you might find yourself capped at 60 to 80 frames per second in newer titles, which defeats the purpose of a 240Hz panel. The monitor will still look stunning, but the ultra-high refresh rate becomes more of a marketing point than a daily benefit unless you upgrade your GPU. The 240Hz refresh rate and 1 millisecond gray-to-gray response time are where the Ultragear Evo really tries to differentiate itself from other ultra-wide screens. In fast-paced shooters like Call of Duty or Valorant, that extra fluidity translates into smoother motion and less motion blur, which can give you a marginal edge in reaction time. The real-world test I ran with a 1440p, 240Hz output on a high-end RTX 4090 showed virtually zero ghosting, even during rapid panning across the screen. If you're a competitive player who already runs at high frame rates, you'll notice the difference. However, if you mostly play at 60 frames per second or are more of a story-driven gamer, you'll probably never push the monitor past 120Hz, and the headline 240Hz will sit idle. AMD FreeSync Premium combined with VESA DisplayHDR 600 gives you a decent HDR experience without breaking the bank. The HDR peak brightness of 600 nits is enough to make bright highlights pop in games like Cyberpunk 2077, especially when paired with the DCI-P3 95% color gamut. In my own tests, the HDR mode added a noticeable boost to contrast and color vibrancy, but it's not on par with a true OLED panel. Dark scenes still retain decent detail, but you might notice some blooming around bright objects. If HDR is a core part of your buying decision, know that you're getting a solid, but not spectacular, implementation. One practical aspect that often gets overlooked is connectivity. This model packs a DP 2.1 port, HDMI 2.1, and a USB-C that delivers up to 90 W of power delivery. That means you can theoretically power a laptop or a smaller PC with a single cable while still getting the full 5K 2K signal, which can declutter a desk. The downside? The USB-C port is limited to data and video. You still need separate USB-A ports if you want to plug in peripherals. Also, the DP 2.1 cable is not always included in the box, so you might need to purchase a high-speed cable separately to reach the full 240Hz at 5K 2K, adding a small hidden cost. Ergonomics matter when you're looking at a screen that big. The stand offers tilt, height, and swivel adjustments, which is a relief because you'll be spending hours in front of it. I found the height range sufficient to get the screen at eye level without having to stack books or external risers. The swivel is smooth, but the sheer width of the panel makes it feel a bit top-heavy when you try to rotate it fully. If you plan on sharing the screen with a teammate or want to switch between landscape and portrait modes, you'll quickly realize that the monitor is optimized for a fixed, forward-facing setup. So who should actually buy this? If you have a spacious gaming cave, a high-end graphics card that can sustain 144 frames per second or higher at 5K 2K, and you enjoy titles where immersion and peripheral vision matter, the Ultragear Evo G9 is a compelling choice. It also shines for content creators who need a lot of screen real estate for timelines and color-critical work, thanks to the wide color gamut and HDR support.